Welcome to the second lecture of your course Wholeness and Identity, and we will discuss key elements of Wesleyan theology, and we will discuss it from a wholeness perspective. In this lecture, we will discuss only one key element of Wesleyan theology, and this first one is biography of John Wesley. We will discuss some things which we can see in John Wesley's life, how he was influenced and why he came to some ideas which we now accepted as key elements of Wesleyan theology. Therefore, we will start with his biography. And it's really interesting life. I like John Wesley. He's not ideal. He's not actually perfect. His life was very complicated, and maybe this is the reason I like it, because it's not some kind of like fairy tale. It's a very complicated life, and he was struggling a lot, and therefore we can learn something from him. We can understand that he's a normal person, and he's a good one. He's a really good one, and we can really. He's a good Christian, and we can learn from his example. But anyway, we will talk about the key elements of Wesleyan theology. And when we talk about Wesleyan theology, it doesn't mean that it's Wesley's theology, but right now we will talk more about like Wesley's theology, which is part of Wesleyan theology. And the Wesleyan theology, some ideas were developed after him by his followers. He was born in 18th century, and his family was a priest's family. His father was a priest, and his mother was a good Christian, I can say. There were 90 children were born in this family, but many of them, like half of them, died when they were infants. And when Wesley was born, he was the sixth one who survived, who really became an adult. And three more children were born after him, including his younger brother Charles, who is famous for his hymns. And it was interesting family as well. I really recommend you to read his biography, and those of you who are going to take this course for 5 credits, you have an assignment to write a paper about what John Wesley and his biography. Therefore, you need to read his biography. There is a link. I provided a link for you to the website where you can find a lot of information about Wesley and about his biography. It's an old one, an old book, but you can Google and find more. You can even watch movies about Wesley. But I would recommend to read something more academic. And I think his life is interesting enough to, even if you read the academic books, that you think like, wow, unbelievable. And he was raised mostly, I can say, by his mother, because all the children, they were taught and raised by his mother. And she was, I can say she was a great theologian until her death. He was communicating with her through letters, and he would ask her advice about different kind of theological ideas. He would ask her advice, and he would listen to her, and actually he would follow her advice. And some scholars, they say that the Wesley's theology, or Wesleyan theology, which we have now, it's actually a lot of ideas were developed by his mother. And we have this Susanna's Wesley's theology, partly. she was well educated, and she was a very strict person. And she's her children. You can read the biography. Her children, when they were just 1 year old, they were taught to cry softly, and otherwise they would be punished. And and they knew already 1 year old. I don't know how she was able to do that, but all of them knew that they 1 year old they should cry softly. Or they were given, when they became 6 years old, they were given just 1 day to memorize the alphabet, all the letters, and usually they did. But I think I don't need to tell you all the details. I think it's just an example for you that how interesting it is, his biography and his parents. You better to read it for yourself. Wesley was really influenced by one accident when he was a child. He was just 6 years old, and he was almost got killed by the fire. He and I think 3 of his sisters, and I think his brother Charles, he was just 2 months old, and he was with his nanny. All of them, they were on the 2nd floor of the house, and the fire happened. And this nanny or nurse took Charles, and she told other children who were a little bit older to follow her, but John was sleeping there in this room, and they forgot about him. And then when they realized that they forgot one child in the house, it was already too late. They couldn't get him. He wasn't 6 yet. He was able somehow to get to the window of the 2nd floor, and they noticed him, and 2 men, they get one man get on the shoulder of the other man, and they were able to somehow save John Wesley. And his mother and John Wesley himself, from that time, he was always taught, and he somehow remembered and believed that he was saved for a special purpose, that God saved him to do something special in this world. And this somehow influenced his theology, his way of thinking. First of all, he believed that God is not some kind of like neutral God who doesn't care. He believed in God who cares. And he believed in God with whom you can somehow build a proper relationship. This fire experience changed him a lot and influenced him a lot. And he was just 6 years old, but through his life, somehow it gave him this purpose in life to do something special for this world. And it was, for him, it was like God's mission for him. Then he became, we don't know much actually about his childhood. We know just general facts, but not much about his childhood. But then he went to study to Oxford because he wanted to become a priest like his father. And first he got BA, and he became ordained deacon, but then he had to do the MA and to be ordained as a priest. It took him a long time. At that time, he was reading a lot from Pietist tradition, and he formed some ideas. He got some ideas from this people who were like mystics, mystical influence, we can say. But he got really good ideas, which he used then, and we still believe in these ideas. you can see on the PowerPoint these ideas. The first one, purity of intentions. It's like motivation. What is your motivation, right? This is what we know is Wesleyan idea, Wesleyan theology idea. What is your motivation? Purity of intentions. Like, is my intentions good enough? I'm doing something because it's because my intentions are pure enough. The second one, which is absolutely biblical, the imitation of Christ. The imitation of Christ is the model for holy living. But it's a very common one, I think. But the third one, which is also biblical, love for God and neighbor, and this became very normal for Wesley. Love for God and neighbor, and we know that he was promoting this social holiness. Then after that, after his education, or even during his education, he created some kind like so-called holy club. Yeah, and we can see this holy, we're talking about holiness. And later in his life, this idea of this little small community will be used by Wesley to develop this Methodist movement, because then I think you will read about that he will create communities and he will create classes, which is smaller groups, and then he will create bands, which is really small group of people. And Wesley was very active. He tried to do his best somehow. It feels like he was like almost trying to please God, and trying to do what he could to become righteous, to become pure, to reach this Christian perfection by his own works, almost. And he and the other members of this holy club, they were doing a lot of social service. They would go to prison, they would help poor people. They were doing a lot. Somehow, at the same time, doing a lot of good, positive things, reading a lot of literature. Wesley is famous for reading a lot. He had doubts about his own salvation. And he was looking for some kind of like special assurance that he's saved, that he's a child of God. And he wants to do even more, just looking for this assurance of salvation. He's trying to do more, but it doesn't help really. And then his father died, and he was offered a missionary trip to America, to Georgia. And at that moment, Wesley is saying that he went there to this missionary trip. Like, official reason was, and his belief was, that I will go there and I will convert all these Indians. There's such a naive people. I will go and share the gospel. They don't know the gospel, and I will share with them. And he expected they will be converted. This is the official reason for him to go there. But at the same time, he's saying that he went there to save his own soul. Unfortunately, and I recommend you again to read his biography, this pastoral efforts didn't really bring good fruit, and it was personal and spiritual failure. The good thing about that was, about this trip, that he met some special people, Moravians, during this storm. he went to America by sea, and there was a storm, and he met Moravians who are Lutherans, and he noticed that they were not afraid to die. They didn't afraid to die. They were sure that they will knew they will meet God, and they will go to heaven. There wasn't any fear among them, and this also influenced him a lot. This Moravian group, their beliefs, they changed completely Wesley's life. There, in the future, there would be negative things as well, but at that moment, when he went to America, he was able to see Christians that were sure that they're saved, and they were not afraid of death. They were ready to die. After that interesting experience, when he was able to see at least this kind of example of people who are not afraid to die, he went to America, and he completely failed this trip, this missionary, this special mission. He came back from America. He escaped, actually. He just escaped. He came back, and so he started to probably reflect about what happened, and he started to attend these special meetings of Moravians. He was still communicating with Moravians, and he visited one of their meetings, which is famous, and it's called Aldersgate Street experience. When they read the commentary of Luther to Romans, about Romans, about the epistle to Romans, and somehow something happened. Many theologians discuss this moment, and they don't know what actually happened to Wesley. Was it complete conversion? Was it entire sanctification, or something else? Was he filled with the Spirit? Or we don't know. But he explains. He describes this experience with the special words. He's saying this: his heart was strangely warmed, and from that time he knew that he is saved, and this was the witness of the Spirit, and he will teach other people about this kind of experience, when the Spirit can witness to you and give you an assurance that you are saved, that you are a child of God. And it's really important. We still believe that. And it doesn't depend on works. It's based on God's grace. And after that, Wesley became the real Wesley, whom we know now. And he started preaching about this experience. Not really about experience, but he started preaching about about the salvation by faith alone. He started preaching this Moravian idea of salvation by faith alone. I mean, it's Lutheran, but somehow Wesley was missing that, and he realized that other people in his churches, in Anglican churches, they were missing that idea that you are saved not by works, but by faith alone, by God's grace. We will talk more about Wesley's biography in the next video.